Welcome once again to the Talking Archive. I'm Josh Jacobs, and our conversation continues with Willie B.
Well, I was at KISS after Magic 91 in San Diego. It was after that I was unemployed, and I had, remember when radio paid what's called money?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a bit of money in the bank, and, I had just got a big tax return, so there was no urgent need to get a job anytime soon, and I was kind of enjoying the break, and my phone rings out of the clear blue, and it's Marvelous Mark McKay from KFRC. Never met the guy, never knew the guy, was well aware of him, and like, hey, Willie B, you want to come to Boston? I think it'd be a great night, Chuck. So that's how I ended up at RKO. But, as I mentioned, I, on vacation from Boston, went back to San Diego and ended up doing mornings at Magic 91. But it was after Magic that I ended up at KISS doing nights for a while.
What was the format for Magic 91? I listened to an air check, not of you, but from somebody from Magic 91. It seemed like it was a blend of top 40 as well as classic top 40.
It was when Jeff Salgo programmed it, it was kind of a soft CHR. Jeff was heavily into research before a lot of people were. And Jeff Salgo, nice guy, man, but he lived and almost died by the research. A lot of the songs, any song that had an edge, didn't test well right out of the gate. So, we didn't play a lot of music that we should have. And instead played a lot of the soft stuff that, people could have cared less about. 79, 80, there was a lot of bad music out there. There were a lot of, that's when CHR couldn't decide if it was going to be disco or hard rock. So the middle ground was like, Dr. Hook and, songs like that, Sylvia's Mother, a lot of soft stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I think Magic 91 jumped on that bandwagon, which really wasn't a bandwagon at all. It was, a one-way trip to nowhere. So that was a bit of a problem. We had great ratings for a while. Matter of fact, my first book or two, I beat Shotgun Tom over at B100, and there was one book where I tied with the all-news station for number one. So, that worked out pretty good for a while. But the problem also, aside from, CHR not really having a lot of great music, to help us, and Jeff's, over-researched playlist, didn't help. But, I just at the same time, AM radio was dying out. I think actually it was 1980 that FM took dominance over AM for the first year.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was also a problem. It was one of those things where you realize, like, no matter how good we sound, we're always going to have at least one hand tied behind our back. So, that was kind of the end of Magic 91.
Yeah, in fact, probably the last great AM that succeeded in Southern California was the Mighty 690. Ted Zingenbusch had been the program director there in the early 80s, and I interviewed him a couple months ago, and he talked about how, again, it was a fun station, but, the time was ticking on that format because FM was becoming dominant, and he was actually programming for a while both its sister station 91X, the alternative rock station, and as well as the CHR, the Mighty 690. I remember after that became like Extra Gold 690, and then of course Sports, which Extra Sports, which was a hit for years.
Yeah,
that could reach
well,
all
that's
of Southern California.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because those Mexico signals, like I think in America, the limit is 50,000 watts non-directional, but in Mexico, their limit is 250,000 watts non-directional.
Yes, that was part of the appeal, matter of fact, to digress back with the El Paso market, they offered to go to X-Rock. They were on the other side of the border, and I think at that time, I don't know why, I want to say 500,000 watts, and that doesn't sound right, but, it was just like, it was, some amount of power that nobody in America came close to, and matter of fact, I think it was almost too powerful, because parts of El Paso, the signals sound almost like too compressed,
Oh, yeah.
Like when you drive by a radio tower, and it's almost like a little overmodulated, but, the Mighty 690 is a prime example of that, Josh.
Well, these days it seems like a lot of music's compressed. I don't know if you do that where you're at right now at KUBA, but I know that, for instance, on K Earth 101, when they play Boston's More Than a Feeling, the song has, the original recording that we have on the album, you have the acoustic guitar really, really low, and it slowly fades up into the vocal. But when you hear it on K-Earth, the guitar is already raised, it's compressed, and so there's not that magic of the song that there was, when you listen to the album. And I noticed that on a lot of tunes as well. I'm like, dude, you're kind of like, so what do you do, I guess, where you are right now? I don't know if you played More Than a Feeling by Boston on your station, but how often does that happen for your station?
Actually, it's funny now because back then the whole idea was being tight. If you had a long jingle and you were going to play Honky Tonk Woman, you made sure to hit the cowbell part, while the jingle was still singing, and hopefully blast right into the drum. The last note of the jingle. That was the mentality back then. I can remember even hearing Larry McKay on KHJ over the intro of Hard Day's Night, which I bet you didn't realize had an intro, but, the Beatles, so any half second will do. And, that was the way for a long time, especially with the compressed AM stations and same on FM. However, as time has gone by and habits and mentalities have changed, we take our music library from Westwood One, and they have a lot of the versions, man, that I'm getting reacquainted with. Indeed, the Boston that you mentioned with that slow fade up. So for a moment or two, it's like, is anything even playing here? And the finger snapping on Killer Queen, the beginning of that. So I think the audience now, their ears are not so seasoned to that super tightness, and again, attention spans are much shorter. But I think people have that subconscious annoyance when they hear everything too tight, with music overlapping or the cowbell on Honky Tonk Woman playing underneath a jingle and not by itself. But to us old school radio guys, it almost sounds kind of naked, that intro of Boston, like, come on, fade up. So, it's a delicate balance there, and especially, I was in Memphis, a PPM market, where you want to make sure that there's always a driving signal, that's going to pull people in, as opposed to the purists out there that, appreciate the song the way it was intended to be heard.
Oh, definitely. By the way, how did you get your job at B104 in Baltimore? And the fan site on Facebook says it was one of the best top 40 CHR stations in the country. What was it about that station that made it stand out?
Good question, because that was one of those things that just came together. I hope everybody in radio, anybody listening, I hope everybody out there has had a job like this at least once in their life. Jan Jeffries is from Alabama, same as me, and so I knew they were putting that station together. Joel Denver was the original program director there, and he didn't last long. And Joel Denver had talked to me about going to Baltimore, and then he ended up getting blown out. Well, the next thing you know, Jan Jeffries calls me, and it's like, hey, Joel Denver had been talking to you. Are you still interested? And they flew me out, and, it's a brand new station. There had been KTK and LPL, I think, WKTK and WLPL. Baltimore had two other FMCHRs by 1980, and neither one came close to touching WCAO, the big AM heritage station there. But they flew me out to Baltimore, and, it was an old facility that Scripps Howard had just bought, and, everything kind of... But the mentality, man, the general manager, Jim Fox, and Jan Jeffries, John Pavlos, the promotion director, the staff, it was like, boy, this thing's either going to really work wonders or be an abysmal failure that everybody thought better. It just seemed like, God, this is going to work. So sure enough, got to Baltimore, and, the station signed on, and, we had there was a campaign going on, as I made the drive out to Baltimore that summer. Life magazine had I stayed with a friend on the way, and he said, hey, you're going to Baltimore, well, look at this. Pulls out the latest issue of Life magazine, and there was an 8-page pictorial, and I remember the title of the article, Look What Happened to Baltimore. And when they flew me out, I was blown away. You think of Baltimore, especially in 1980, as a pretty rundown city that's seen its better day. But at the very month I flew out there, they had opened up the Inner Harbor and all the things now that make downtown Baltimore such a premier attraction. And, most cities talk about that kind of urban renewal, but I couldn't believe it. I sat there looking at it going, wow, this is really happening, and people love it. Great crowds downtown every night. It just, the Spice Factory, it just smelled good, it looked good, it felt good. And at any rate, the mayor of Baltimore, very popular mayor, Mayor Willie Don Schaefer, he had a Baltimore is Best campaign. Baltimore is best, best, best. You saw bumper stickers, Baltimore is best. That was the slogan for the resurgence of Baltimore. Well, B104, WBSB, Baltimore is best. So we we co-opted that for us. Baltimore's best. B104 means music, but everything was Baltimore's best. So as the city had the rebirth, we kind of joined in on that, and we were kind of the soundtrack to it. So, and again, we talked about the Orioles. We had, their star baseball players by the Colts before they moved. We really were not just a CHR, but also a part of the community. And, not targeting teens or even 18 to 24 so much as 25 to 54 adults. And still having, that CHR edge, especially at night. But it all came together. We had Ken Merson, who came over from WCBM. Brian and O'Brien eventually ended up as our morning stars. Don O'Brien came from WPGC in Washington, and Brian Wilson came from WABC in New York. So, we really had just a sound I can remember, and I know what you're talking about, where people have compared us, to some of the great radio that was going on in New York. And ego aside, I have to agree. I mean, we were really firing on all cylinders, and I think for a while there, when I was there, B104 was billing between $6 to $8 million a year, and that was back in the middle '80s. So that would be about 2 or 3 times that now. So, yeah, it was a real gold mine. We worked hard, man. We were promotionally the most active station I have ever worked at. Baltimore had a March of Dimes walkathon, like every city in America did, but we co-opted that as well. And brought in Hall & Oates. If you had a walkathon sponsor sheet that gave you free admission to a Hall & Oates concert the Friday night of the weekend of the walk. We broadcast from the walkathon and handed out like 25,000 B104 T-shirts. We were everywhere. We were everywhere for any big event in Baltimore. And like I said, I remember, for example, in 1983, I recall at the end of the year looking at my notes, and I had done 83 appearances in 1983.
Wow.
And that was, wow indeed, man. That was a typical year. So we were out and about all of the time, winning over the market one person at a time. But it literally and figuratively paid off, Josh. We had a great run there at B104. I think we were the top billing station in the Mid-Atlantic for the better part of about 6 years.
Now, how often were those appearances live remote broadcasts?
It was a mixture. A lot of them were like high school record hops where you get paid. Then you got a lot of the others. And somebody, matter of fact, stumbled across an air check of one of the walkathons on YouTube, and it sounded surprisingly good, considering we were out there in the hot sun for like 15 hours straight. But, if you go to YouTube, I think, and type in B104 walkathon or something like that, I think there's one of the breaks Kid Curry, Brian Carter, and I are doing. So about half and half, I guess. Some paid remotes, but a lot of it, man. We did high school assemblies with some kind of deal. I forget even who sponsored it, but some company that showed a film, and we brought whoever up on stage and all that. But like 20, 30 high schools in a row, assemblies. So we put in about as much time outside the station as we did in the station, and I still live by that, man. I do a lunch bunch delivery here. Where, I'm still running into people that go, oh, yeah, man, you brought food by our office. That's why we listen to you. So, honestly, if you still, deal with people and, I don't know, people want to like the guy and know the guy on the radio. That's been my experience, and it still works.
That's great. And that's one thing that satellite radio can never replace. And, it's just, I guess, who owned B104 back then?
It was owned by Scripps Howard, the newspaper company. I think they had like 7 or 8 stations. They had FM 100 down in Memphis at that time, and a couple of others, not too many, and I can't remember where the rest were. But, they had a handful of radio stations, but, we were, of course, like their big flagship. But Scripps Howard treated us very well.
That's great to hear about that. And great. Any other? Who are you? I guess you're close with Brian Wilson from the station as well, and anybody else that you were close with there at the radio station you like to still keep in contact with?
Well, a lot of guys, Gary Kelly, who I knew, a lot of the guys from San Diego, except half the people I knew were dead. But, I still talk to shots, let me see, and from Baltimore, you're mentioning B104, Brian Carter has since passed, but I'm still in touch with Ken Merson. He's the godfather of my kids. And,
that's great.
I was in touch with Brian Carter up until the time he died. A lot of these long-lasting friendships, man. The bonds we made at some of these winning stations were not just in the moment, but lasting a lifetime. And I guess that's been one of the great payoffs of this whole career.
And also with the with B104, how oftentimes did they put on a concert with different artists?
Quite often, as I recall, I mentioned the Hall & Oates show, and I'm not quite sure putting on, but we were involved with just about any kind of show with anybody remotely close to our playlist. Matter of fact, I remember even being down at Merriweather Post introducing Enrique Iglesias,
Wow.
And, so, okay, I guess that's for the upper demos here. But I keep thinking now, it's like all those pictures with all those stars, it was concerts. And B104 was downtown. We were 4 blocks from the Baltimore Civic Center. So there was a deal ongoing where for any kind of a concert relative to our audience, I got off the air at 6, so it was my job. It seemed like about once a week to, walk down to the Civic Center and go up on stage in front of 15,000 people and introduce Tears for Fears or Joan Jett or somebody at that caliber. So I remember we were very actively involved, giving away tickets and all for these shows, but as well, me being the guy that brought these acts up on stage and had them on the air.
What was the most unusual contest that that B100 had?
Wow. We did diving for dollars once.
Wow, I like that.
And one of those things. But I remember Bobby Rich was on our midday. The comment had been sick. Dave Conley was out one day, and diving for dollars. However long you go under or hold your or some crap like that. But I think some kid won $17, and he's going, "That's it? That sucks, dude." But I'll tell you, here you go. The bizarre contest and the most bizarre / successful radio promotion I've ever been a part of. And mind you, man, at B104, we gave away a house once.
Wow.
Was involved with the free money birthday contest, the increments going from $5 to like $15,000 cash and all that. Nothing came close when I programmed WYCR in York, Pennsylvania. That was, I think, like Market 99 at the time, and kind of a rim shot station, but we brought it from worst to first in 120 days and stayed number 1 there for 2 years. But I did a promotion called Bovine Bingo, okay? And it's what the name kind of implies. So what it was, we gave away qualifying prizes. People had to go on the air and moo. Or sing the theme from Rawhide or some crap like that, right? And after a while, we started getting like these blue-haired ladies winning our contest, and all they knew is that it was bingo. Well, what it was, you won your qualifying prize. It was 98 YCR, so we gave away 98 squares. So my general manager and I, when I heard of this promotion, I stole it. I forget from who. I called the local 4-H clubs, and were able to rent a cow, and we were able to rent some pasture land. And there's me and my GM the day before out in our business suits and all, with a lime deal, like marking off 98 squares, like an outdoor life-size bingo square, 98 squares. And the gist of the contest is that, everybody had a square that they had won, and we let the cow loose, and whatever square the cow took a shit on, that would be the winning square for a $5,000 prize pack. Well, okay. And the 4-H people say, oh, yeah. It's like, how long will it take? How long does it take for the cow to take a dump? And they go, oh man, the cows get so freaked out on the ride over. Trust me, once they go down the ramp, they'll let loose right away. So, okay, we don't want to keep people standing around too long watching a cow not take a dump, So we got a great crowd that day, and there's vendors out there selling, everything. So it's a very festive atmosphere and all. And the 4-H people arrive, and the cow gets a standing ovation. Well, the cow goes down the ramp, and we're expecting the cow to go any moment. And we're waiting, and the cow is just eating some grass. And like, okay, well, we walk on over to get like a soda, at one of the vendors. And, like 10, 15, seemed like forever, 30 minutes, who knows, into it, we hear the crowd begin to cheer. It's like, oh, man, did he finally go? No, the cow had only taken a piss. But it was the first and only time in my life I saw a cow get a standing ovation for taking a piss on the ground. So at any rate, later on the cow did his business and let the chips fall where they may, and every other cliche that we could come up with. But at any rate, everybody there had a great time. One thing I learned, man, you never go wrong with animals. Whether it's an ugly pet contest or something like that. I'm an animal lover. People love animals, and right up to cows. And so, bovine bingo, man, I highly recommend it.
This is the Talking Archive. I'm Josh Jacobs. We're talking with Willie B. And next time, we'll find out what city YCR is in.